Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen of Golf Industry Guru and beyond. I am your host, James Cronk, with today's live Q&A call, February the 3rd. In a couple weeks, I'm going to play golf in Palm Springs. And I've got 4 rounds of golf booked. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to manage to, get to that 4th round and, be fit and limber and be hitting the ball as much as I possibly can, down that fairway. Our guest today played over 500 rounds in a year, for goodness sakes, ladies and gentlemen. And in addition I've learned, my goodness, has written a book, is an unbelievable golf course photographer. I was at a conference a couple weeks ago in Orlando for the PGA show and saw this guest on a panel of influencers. And just loved his story. So without further ado, I am excited to bring on the Gig Podcast today, our guest, Mr. Patrick Koenig. Patrick, welcome to the Gig Podcast. We don't have enough time today. We've got 1 hour scheduled, but I've been watching your stuff on YouTube. I've been looking at all your materials, the tour, the rounds of golf, the world record, the book, the photography, the influencing. There's so many wonderful, cool things that you are doing. And just, man, how did you get to where you are right now? What got you into this place? How did you discover that there was this whole world out there for you and also, photography and the game? But welcome to the Gig Podcast. And please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Oh man, well, thank you for that introduction, James. It's good to be here on the Gig, and there's when you put it all into there, it's like, man, I guess I have been doing a lot of stuff. Today I'm sitting here in my home in Laguna Beach in my golf office, and so it's fun sometimes to go back and talk about how I got here, because I mean I was like a lot of people. A dozen years ago, I was a sales guy. I was working in San Francisco. I was spending all my money on trips to Palm Springs, playing 4 rounds of golf. And I loved it. I mean, that's kind of the thing that I think drives all of us in this industry is our just crazy obsession with the game of golf. We can't get enough of it. And for me, my favorite place was always to be on a golf course. There's no place I'd rather be. And that's where it really started, is like, how do I take these moments with me? How do I collect these things? We kind of collect ball markers and logo balls and all these different things from the courses, and which I certainly do that. I've got, you can see on my wall behind me, just a bunch of stuff already and drawers full of it. But the ultimate souvenir for me was a photograph of maybe it's my friends playing, and it turns out it was the golf course, and so just early on, I mean, I would just take photographs and store them, and then I would go back and look at them. And the world of social media wasn't quite exploding as it is now, or it has been for the past decade. And it was just kind of a passion project. I remember one time my friend Joe Garvey, who's a great golfer and a good friend. He was just looking at my phone. He's like, "Why do you have so mane pictures of golf course? What are you going to do with those?" And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I found something to do with them. Instagram came out. I mean, literally it came out. I was in San Francisco and had, friends that were some of the first employees and folks at Twitter. And I remember one time one of my friends offered me the handle just Patrick for Twitter. And I didn't know what Twitter was. I was like, what are you talking about? I don't want that. Wish I would have taken it back then. But it was, so I decided to start just putting my golf photographs on Instagram. I was like, this will be a cool place where I can just keep them. I had no idea that Instagram would turn into what it has. And I started getting a following, and Instagram started blowing up, and there was a lot of people that were interested in golf course photos and then in golf. And what that did was really, it got me invited to places. I started meeting people that were excited about the game as well, and people that were doing early influencing. I made friends with all sorts of people. Paige Sporanic was just coming up, and we're pals. Everybody knows Paige. If you don't, I'm living under a rock. But things like that were great fun early on, and so I just kind of ran with it. And I was still doing my sales job and doing both things. And then in 2018, I said, what if I just quit my job and traveled around the country in an RV in playing golf because I couldn't get enough of it. I was like, I wanted to see more. I knew I had these great invitations to these places, and I just wanted to see all the spots. And so that was really kind of how my life changed, is when I quit my job and bought an RV and drove around. I played 405 golf courses that year alone, just on my own whims, just my desires. And when I quit with that, I took photos of everywhere I went, because that's what my content was. I was posting on Instagram and build a following. And one thing kind of led to another. People started asking me for photographs. Can I buy this? And I was like, well, maybe if I just become the best golf course photographer in the world. Certainly a lofty goal at the time. Seems absurd to become the best at anything in the world, but it seemed like a good goal. Everything you know about goal setting is like set something ridiculous and bold, and then work like mad to get there. And at this point, I feel like I don't know if I'm that seems ridiculous to say you're the best in the world or anything. But if that conversation comes up, hopefully my name would get mentioned at this point. So that's a real dream, to be regarded like that. And some of the clients that I've had and the things they've said about me have just been humbling and really cool. And so, I mean, that was 2018, 2019. So I just started doing photographs and traveling all over the world. And then,
and Patrick, were you a accomplished photographer at that point in time? Like, did you have all the gear? Did you know what you were doing? Were you, did you realize at that point in time, was golf the lead to photography, or photography the lead to golf?
It was, and I think this is important for other photographers out there. It was golf was the lead to photography, because I'm so passionate about the subject. And I think that really makes a difference. If you're photographing something that you love, it's different than loving photography and photographing something that you don't care about, because there's details that make photographs great. And, at the time I knew what I was doing on the golf course. I knew what was cool. I knew what was unique. And I really didn't know what I was doing when it come to photographs. I was getting lucky a lot of the times, and I benefited from a lot of the glorious nature of my subjects, the golf courses themselves. But, once I made that conscious decision, I studied like mad. I think you can give yourself a first-class education if you're passionate, and, YouTube's a wonderful thing. I get a chance to talk with the world's best photographers and understand what they do. And it's kind of the same stuff that I do. And so now it's fun to have other kids come up and say, hey, what do you do here? How's this? Or what do you think about this? So I definitely know what I'm doing now. But, when I first started, I would have been hard pressed to explain aperture to you in the very early days. I was in auto mode, and well, that works for some things. Certainly sometimes auto mode is all you need. But I wanted more, and to become the best, you have to learn about all the different things you can do, the different equipment. Drones are a big part of photography this day and age. I'm excited. There'll be some really good advancements in drones. That's where the bigger, better cameras get up in the air. You can really do some cool stuff. So excited to see what comes with that in terms of developments. But I like to stay on top of it. And I'm spending way too much money on lenses and drones and all the things that you need to be great. But I'm fortunate that I've had some success and are able to purchase such ridiculously expensive equipment.
Well, we're gonna talk about photography in a minute, because I think that this podcast is talking to owners, operators, GMs in the golf industry, and people that love the golf industry. And so I definitely want to pick your brain about what does an operator think about when they're talking about photography. But before we get to that, you're certainly incredibly well known in the social media world about the RGV Tour Series, right? And it's such a interesting story. I was just doing a little bit of background and a little bit of research and looking at some of your videos and the book. I wanted you to talk about the book, but my goodness, man, like how did you pull that? First of all, did you pull it off? How did you pull that off? Like how did it grow to that? How did you become? You said kind of the first time was 400 courses, and then did you set a goal to?
My goal was to. Yeah, so it's fun because there's two tours that we're talking about here. The RGV, which stands for recreational golf vehicle. It's not an RV; it's a recreational golf vehicle, specifically designed. I had a rooftop range on there. I'd hit balls off of canyons and weird spots, and that was my goal first when I quit my job, was to play golf in all 50 states, which I did. I accomplished that goal. It was in Wyoming was my final state. So my first goal was to do that. And really, I wasn't sure. I thought I would have to go back to sales after I was done. It was kind of to see, hey, if I put myself out there, all these great people, certainly I could find a route that would allow me to continue in golf and because us in golf, I mean, everybody that works in it, it's kind of a dream. We love the fact that we get to be around that we love. We're underpaid, but we love what we do. And so I was just searching for any opportunity to stay in golf and do what I love versus, I mean, I was selling hosted voice over IP solutions and conferencing and collaboration tools, which no little kid dreams of that, but to have a life in golf is a dream. And so that was really my goal, to find that for myself. And I achieved that. It was challenging. I think kind of one opportunity kind of led to the next. And then, you're not sure where the next paycheck was coming from for a bit there. And I spent a lot of money, a lot of savings on that tour and a lot on gas. And so once I kind of leveled out, focused on my business of, providing these services to courses and people that could use them in an effective manner. And just, it's meeting the right customers and growing your business and taking care of one client at a time and not leaving. I was just on a call to a golf course in the Dominican Republic called Guava Berry. And I was telling them about it. It's like, I don't leave a client until the photos are going to blow them away. Right. It does me no good to give them, take a paycheck and give them average photographs. I want them to be thrilled. I want them to tell their neighbor about me. And that's how I've grown my business. And so, that was what the first tour, I think your question was more about how the tour was successful, but that first tour, I achieved my goal of that.
Right.
And then the second tour kind of came around when I'd been photographing and traveling for a while, and a company called Golf Gamebook reached out to me. It's an app out of Finland. It's a score and social media keeping app, pretty good little one. And they said, if you remember seeing the first tour, have you ever thought about doing another one? And I was like, well, yeah, I would set the world record for most golf courses played in a year. It was funny enough, I mentioned in my book that I wrote down a business plan for a second tour maybe 2 weeks beforehand, and no real plan in doing it because I knew it's expensive. And I just kind of put it out in the universe. And I don't know if they were, the cosmos were listening, but
sure.
I had that call. And after the first call, we had all the ideas started flowing. We used the app to keep track of my progress, and we'd be going after this record, photography at all the different courses. The idea is once you really start to dig into it, just start flowing. You're like, oh, the social content you could create out of this and people following along. And, you get an RV. And then the fun part about traveling around the country in an RV, just in that, even if you're not playing golf, is kind of an alluring possibility for a lot of folks that sit behind a desk or are trapped in their 9 to 5. And that was a lot of fun. Just to go from course to course, sleeping in Walmart parking lots, sleeping at rest stops, sleeping in people's driveways, golf course parking lots. These things are super fun. The things that I loved the most about it was, the people and inviting them onto because what I did, I kept little trinkets from each course. I started putting stickers that I would find. Ball marks was a fun one. I put ball marks, and by the time I was done, the entire inside of the RV was covered in kind of like the stuff you see behind me, but much more detailed on inside of the RV.
Right.
And people would walk in there like, this is a museum. It was, and
sure.
A golf course nerd would just go in there and you'd recognize spots that you maybe play or want to play or had heard about. And I just sit there and talk golf with these other golf nerds for, after we played a round of golf. Everybody got assigned the guest book. We had a guest book, which was super fun. And I did podcasts with special guests that were fun to play with, and I got some great folks and I just had a time of my life traveling around and doing what I love. And, but it was nonstop. It was golf every day, and it was driving.
But what was your of that period, the second tour, if I can ask, did you have a low round and a high round? Was it a wide variety?
Yeah, I covered the book was super fun to write because it's a collection of stories from all these different things.
And tell people about the book right now. Like, tell people how to get the book, what the book's title. If people got United States of Golf, right? But,
yeah.
I mean, go buy it, ladies and gentlemen, because I haven't read it yet, Patrick. It's on my list.
Oh, you got to read
and
it. Yeah,
I can't wait. But yeah. So sorry, going back to your high and lows.
Yeah, the United States of Golf. It's from Back Nine Press. So if you Google Back Nine Press, United States of Golf, you can buy it there. It's very affordable. It's a great read. It's got some of my photos in there, but it's my story, and it's fun. There's a lot in there because it covers topics like I'm recovering alcoholic from alcoholism to I went through a divorce on the first tour, so there's a lot of fun stuff. Yeah, but not everybody.
I'm going to play golf for a year.
Not everybody's as supportive as my current fiance. She made it through the second tour and supported me the entire way. So those stories are, and it's just stories about random people that I would meet on the golf course, and some of the things that would happen where we'd sleep, and just it was a wild ride. Sorry, what was the question?
I asked how was the disparity between your best score and your high score?
Yeah.
Once again, I can only imagine what the body would be like playing 500 plus rounds of golf.
Yeah.
It's like guys go on golf trips, right? You were, what was your high and low?
It's interesting because I think I was probably the highest I'd been in a while. I was focusing more on photography, not as much on shooting good scores, but I was like a 4 or 5 handicap when I started, which is solid. Okay. It's tough to hang around scratch. But when you play every day, the things that happen is your short game gets really good. Yes. You get used to the different grasses, turf interaction. It all feels very familiar. And it's, the times I'd just be like, this is an easy up and down, and just bring a wedge knowing I was going to chip it to a foot. I would get pretty good. I don't know if I'm tour level short game, but I was certainly doing some pretty good reps there. I didn't practice like those tour players do, but some things, so your short game gets good, but golf's a weird thing. It can jump up and be like, today you are going to hit it sideways. There's just nothing you can do about it. And there was one round where, because I like to think that I maintained mental fortitude through all these rounds, good and bad. There was one round where it got away from me, and I was whining about it. I was hitting it all over into the trees. I was blaming the course. I was just being that guy. And it was just one round, and I shot I think it was like a 92. With 13 penalty strokes. I was just pissed. I was bad attitude. And, my apologies there was a guy I played with that got the worst of that. And I don't know how bad it was. I don't even know what he would say about me if he were to, be on this call. But I remember sitting down after I shot the 92 and did a little moral inventory. And I was like, that wasn't cool. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to, it doesn't feel good. If I would have turned my attitude around, I could have shot 85, and I just didn't. And then I went out that afternoon because I played 36 that day, and I shot a 72. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this turns around pretty quickly. That doesn't always work like that. But my low round of the tour, I think, was 68 or 67, 68. Awesome. A couple times I had a 68. So that was, the highs and lows of golf. That's a pretty, 68 to 92. I would have loved to keep it in, the 80s and not have a score in the 90s. But I think it's actually kind of cool. It's a good reminder of how you got to always be on, and golf can get away from you at any point in time. No matter 100%. How much you're playing, how good your short game is, whatever you think. And so, I'm proud of the way that I handle myself over that. And I think it was like a 77 point. The stats are in Golf Gamebook. There's a outrageous amount of data behind that tour, but it ended up being like 77.8. I think was my average score for the 580 different golf courses I played.
So cool. Cool. We might come back to a couple of things there, but let's talk about photography, because when I saw, I saw your session, excellent session at the GBC conference and the PGA show in Orlando. And you were up there with some other influencers and talking about what you do. And as a Canadian, I was learning about you. And then when I did some research, you create stunning photography. It really is, Patty. Great stuff. And I was incredibly impressed by your work. And we've got a few images I think we're going to try to show today on the screen, but I invite all our listeners to, there we go, to check out some of your work. And so, once again, we're an industry podcast. 30 plus years ago, I think, I can't remember the first time in the business when I hired a photographer to come and take shots of our golf course. We used to talk about the signature hole and all those other types of things. But it's as relevant, if not more, today with obviously media and Instagram and people's desire to consume imagery. So I think the questions kind of speaks for itself. What should an operator, if they're going to hire a photographer? I guess a couple things, Patrick. What do you look for? What should an operator look for in a photographer? What are some questions that they should be asking the photographer? What should they be thinking about before they're going to have a photography shoot at their facility? And feel free to take some time with this answer, because I think it's such a valuable insight for facilities that know it's time to refresh their imagery and are maybe not sure exactly what's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I think that it's a good point, because I think it would start at the beginning. There is golf courses, and I've found that there's a majority of them don't have very good images of their golf course. They don't have, they're not, some do a great job of it. And those are the ones that are played extensively and that are the center of buddies trips, and that do a really good job of getting it out there. Because I'm always blown away where you'll spend millions of dollars on this incredible asset that people travel far and wide to come and play, and then you don't have the very best photographers in the world capturing it on a regular basis. Because golf courses live and breathe, they change, they get renovated. The best courses will do it, an annual basis. I get not everybody is banned in dunes and has just, the world at their fingertips when it comes to resources and things like that. But at a minimum, you got to say, hey, we need some great assets of our golf course. And then you're thinking right, because I tell clients all the time, I was a guy that you were looking for. I was, I had disposable income. I was looking to take golf trips with buddies, and I went and I planned it. How do I do it? I search it out. And when I'm looking for courses as I'm already there, whatever it is, I pull up, search, and I see images of a place, and 10 times out of 10, I pick the one that's got the shocking image. I'm like, man, look at that. That's Gamble Sands right there. We're talking about, I got to play that golf hole. It's a beautiful little short course with a punch bowl green. And that's going to win over pretty much anybody that has an average image of their course. So that's how golfers are making their decisions to go places most often.
Patrick, if I may just interrupt real quick, like I was saying earlier on, I'm going to Palm Springs in a couple of weeks to play some golf, right? And so, my buddy and I are like, let's identify 20 facilities that we'd love to try to see if we can go play, and ask them how we might be able to get there. But I'm looking at 20 websites, I'm looking at 20 homepages, and I was really quite surprised. And as you mentioned, those facilities that have great imagery and how that stands out and makes you want to play there. And then other courses that had great reputation. I know they're fantastic tracks, but the imagery that's at least being put on their website is really not, making me too jazzed and excited about it. So you really do gravitate towards those images. And not everyone's at Pebble Beach, obviously, right? So
no.
You got to separate. For that operator that's got competitors within 20 miles of them, you've got to figure out how you're going to separate yourself for that golfer that's looking for something. So sorry, keep going about how an operator would prepare for or make a decision and choose a photographer, and what to think about before you would arrive.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you do a little Google search and figure out who that is. I think I checked recently, and we search golf course photographer. I'm at the top of the list. So that's a little pride point there for me in my SEO work. But you look at great work and you engage those folks and see what it costs to bring those photographers out there. And everybody's process is a little bit different. There's not a lot of us that focus directly on this and are very good at our craft. But for me, I like to take a lot of the work out of my clients' hands. I know they've got a golf course to run, they've got maintenance to do. And so my process starts with the call, where I explain exactly. I like to get exactly what they're looking for. Are they interested in video flyovers of their hole? This is something they want to put on their website, where it's they have their head pro narrate fly over each hole. That's something we can do. Or most often that's not super popular, but most often they're looking at a handful of imagery that I can provide for them. So I get all of the details of things that matter to them. I get in touch with the superintendent, because we're showing off their work. These guys work incredibly hard to maintain a meticulous golf course, and I want to make them proud. So I get in touch with them. We coordinate kind of our schedules as it comes to, I'm going to be shooting here, where are your guys going to be in the morning? Can we make sure we get the pins in? And it gets down to the details after an initial shoot. We go out there and I start working, and I get a lay of the land, and I come back to them, say, hey, we're off to a great start. Don't change a thing. You're doing everything. I'm in touch with them. Or maybe there is the 12th hole looks great at sunset, but the back pin is completely shaded, where the left front would be great. Could you put a pin in the front left? And details like that kind of make a big difference. So working closely with the guys on the ground, the ones that are mowing the grass, is really important. I always ask for an introduction there, and then let me loose. I mean, I think when you hire me, that is kind of my skill. I don't say to a client, hey, give me the signature hole and these sort of things. It's like, you've hired me because I'm an expert in the matter, and I'm going to go out there and find angles and looks that maybe you haven't seen before. And that's part of the service that you're purchasing, is my ability to analyze a golf course for how it looks the most beautiful, capture that imagery, and then display it and give it to you to share. And if there are specific things, and like, we really want to focus on this one hole or something along those lines, like, it's real easy for me to do. Some clients are concerned about, we talk about time of year is important, because not every golf course looks great in February. Some you are covered in snow, you can't even play. Superintendents will know when their golf course is great, when the fescue has got that golden hue to it. Like, my June fills up real fast. It's a popular month. It's already booked for this year. And so that's important. When your golf course.
Certain regions, right? There's certain times when golf courses are just at their very best.
And, I've got some in like the Midwest and the Northeast, where they're like, we want the fall colors. Some golf courses wisely will have me out in the summer, and then I'll come back for a fall shoot as well. The Monster Golf Club out in the Catskills was one of those examples. So, like, we want both of those types of images, and it's smart, and every visit I say, I end up with different imagery, a different look. The weather is, I can't control it. And so that's a big part of what I'm taking pictures of, so you get some spectacular clouds one day, and then another day where it's just blue skies, and those look very different. And the content and imagery that you will get from that is varied. So that's why I do, my shoots are 3 to 4 days at a minimum, which allows for me to capture sunrise and sunset at various, different looks. I'm not giving you 100 of the same image, right? We want different types of things. I also do, so I understand golf courses are not just golf courses. Sometimes they're tennis facilities and stuff like that. So that's another thing that I do as well, where I can take pictures of a clubhouse. And I always tell clients that I can do that, and it's part of one. I'm an expert on the golf course stuff, so that's where my focus is. If you want pictures of food, you got to hire a food photographer. I can snap a couple shots and make your package worthwhile to kind of fill out a website nicely. But the golf course is really kind of my level of expertise, and that really speaks to, like, how focused and niche in photography you've got to be these days. You can't just be a photographer of all things, because if you want to be the best at something, it requires a great amount of knowledge of detail. And that's where things like being a golfer really come into play with my photography, is that I know where I see a foreground, like that's not on every golf course. That's really unique. Let's look to find a way to put that into a foreground or maybe a background or a backdrop. And those things pop out to me immediately when I'm shooting a golf course. And it does a great job of making your golf course unique. If you have something unique on the course, which a golfer might want to come and see, you've got to do a great job of highlighting that. And what I found is that every golf course, no matter whatever, they have some sort of beauty, some sort of charm, some sort of uniqueness to them that I just love to show off.
Has anything changed in your opinion? Let's just talk about the last decade. We sometimes would talk about golfers being in imagery, right? So having people on the golf course versus having the golf course at 6 a.m. when it's just barren and it's just the golf course itself. And some of the images that we saw obviously didn't have golfers on them in that experience. But have you found that there's been any kind of difference in what clients are looking for in that kind of outcome of what they want their images to be used for or to tell a story of, in addition to the beautiful golf shot, right? I mean, the signature, whatever it might be. But have you found that there's kind of any changing in requests, I guess, from clients besides shooting food or pickleball courts or whatever it might be?
Not a big change. I think, a lot of clients want the ability to, and I'll work with them if they, I say, if you want to bring out some members and introduce golfers into your photographs, I think that does a good job of helping the visitor or the viewer picture themselves in that moment, standing on a tee box. And most often they're not necessarily the subject, but part of a larger picture. So it's kind of a nameless or faceless individual that's staying on a tee shot and doing that. So I've done some shoots with clubs where they're like, all right, they put out a call to their membership. Patrick Koenig is going to be here, and we're looking for some models. And I'll get everything from kind of the reactions on their faces and a putt, a high five, and that sort of thing. So it's visual storytelling that can be really fun. Those sort of shoots I love because it's it's not just me in the golf course. You can work with the individuals, and it depends on what the customer wants. I think a lot of places just love, my experience is most people are coming to me for the beauty shots and things that I'm very good at. And as well, some clients want to, paint that lifestyle a little bit more. And so I always tell people, hire a multitude of photographers when I'm a part of your marketing plan. I shouldn't be the only one. I say that I was like, I'd love to, just shoot everybody and have myself be the only person that can do this stuff. But the reality is that's not the case. I tell people, it's like, certainly hire me and have me be a part of your solution. And I mentioned this at the panel at the PGA show, is that when I was in sales, it was, I'm looking to get meetings with CEOs of tech companies, and they're not easy to do. And so I put together a carefully crafted email where I research my client and send him or her an email, and then they almost never respond. Every once in a while you do. And then I follow up, and then most reps would give up after like 2 or 3 follow-ups or something. I found that I had to add value, add touch points about 6 different times before I would get somebody to respond. So if you take that and look at it in terms of your marketing approach to a consumer, we'll just use, I just got off the call with guava berry. Yeah, I hadn't heard of guava berry before, but say you're going through your feed and you see guava. Oh, interesting. Guava, that looks pretty cool. That's one touch. They're not going to book a tee time based on that. They see somebody playing they see another video, somebody's playing out there. Maybe somebody they know. That's 2 touches. Now they're maybe thinking about it. Maybe they see another image. Maybe they read an article about a renovation that's been done. Maybe they see a photograph from another photographer. Now you're at 6. They reach out and book a tee time. So it's like, it's not just myself that secures these tee times. Obviously, some people will see an image and just book a tee time, right off the bat. But that's how I like to suggest that these marketing efforts for these golf courses kind of maintain that idea. It's you've got to have a number of different ones. The best courses are doing it. That's why I say, have constantly refresh your imagery,
Yeah.
constantly get updates to the golf course. Always be in search of that next best great photograph of your very best asset.
Is there any difference between public and private and
Oh, yeah.
resort kind of facilities in how they approach it, and the storytelling part of it?
Yeah, it's a big difference. It's a huge difference because if you're a private course, and I did a shoot earlier this year for a billionaire that owned his own golf course, and he had no interest in sharing the photo. It was for his family, and he just wanted these photographs to look at. I think the New York Times or was it Forbes? Forbes did an article on him, so he wanted some photographs to share with Forbes. Other than that, he was like, I don't want people to, he took some arm twisting, like, we should do an Instagram post. He's like, okay, I'll find, so that's the kind of the far end of the private sector. But obviously, these folks are some places. We're fortunate that golf's in a booming space right now. People are but I would say nothing lasts forever. And so kind of maintaining that reputation and having consistently good imagery of your golf course is still important to private clubs. And I see a lot of private clubs, it's different. The members take pride in that, and they want to see those images. I sell a lot of prints to members of clubs that at Fox Chapel, they're like, well, we love these photographs. I was at a beautiful course outside of Pittsburgh, and I get a lot of orders from folks over there that want to put those on their walls and stuff like that. So it's something that I do with I see more at private clubs. And then, the public courses are looking for tee times. They have a more ravenous appetite for media exposure. They want to see their Instagram, those Twitter posts, the blog posts that I write on my website about their course, and linking back to make a tee time. It's funny you mentioned Palm Springs earlier, because I put together the official guide to Palm Springs. I'm a veteran of exploring golf in Palm Springs, and so I put together a little public guide to the best golf courses that you can book in Palm Springs.
I saw it.
You saw it, so you kind of know, and that does a good job because it's completely unbiased. It's none of these courses are paying me. Like most of these things, like they're getting kickbacks or whatever. I was just doing it because I was like, no, there's no really legit guide, and I had a ranking criteria and like the whole thing, and so that gets a ton of traffic. It was a fun thing I just kind of loved to do. Nobody's paying me to do it. That's just kind of, it's good. I get some traffic to my website. I think it benefits me in that regard. But those courses were all, I played, and some of them didn't pay me for the photographs. I just do it because I love it. Right. And so then I shot them out there on the official guide. So stuff like that is really helpful for courses on the public side. And when I do go to a public golf course, I take great pride in putting together a blog post that showcases all the imagery from my shoot, talks about the visit. And I think that makes a difference when you're looking at content that you can have about your golf course out there on the internet. People will see that, go take a walk through the course. They're like, oh, we should book a tee time. Oh, it's right here. So that does a good job of taking a viewer beyond a Instagram post, which you see for like 2 seconds or something. You're scrolling fast. But if you click a link and you read a story about a golf course, that's 5 minutes of impression. You're much more likely to, next time you're in the area, oh, I saw that. Let's book a tee time, or let's do a buddies trip around this place. It looks fantastic. I'd never heard of it before. So all those different things you want, these different touch points, these different types of content that are out there these days.
Do you would you like consider yourself an influencer? Let's just talk about that for a minute, because that the panel that Bobby was hosting and the crew that was on there, Fat Perez and some others, it was awesome with people about the role that influencers can play to support a facility, right? To your marketing, your growth, your exposure, et cetera, et cetera. And my company was managing a golf course a couple of years ago, and one of the staff came to a meeting and said, this influencer wants to come and, play our golf course and wants a tee time at, 10 o'clock, and he's going to post on his Instagram, and wants a free round of golf and lunch, and I'm just like, all the other stuff, right? And so, you sit there and go, well, is A, do I want that, as an operator? B, do I want that influencer? C, what control do I have? I mean, one of the challenges, of course, I tell the story. We had a guy once who literally stood on one of the tee boxes and must have taken 400 swings. The tee box was destroyed. The superintendent lost his mind because this guy's trying to get the perfect shot to 2 feet, right? And had no regard for the golf. That was a lesson learned, by the way, about bringing an influencer on your property to hit balls. But how do you see your role, Patrick? And I guess the role of influencers in helping golf course and destinations tell their story?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think if you're not doing it, you're missing an opportunity to do it. But then it does require some due diligence and some research and some knowledge of the space before just jumping in and saying, oh, there's this influencer that wants to just giving everybody a tee time. Now, some things you're not going to be able to avoid. There people, if it's a public course, somebody can come out there, film a video of them doing 10 shots and hitting balls into the water, driving a car, doing dumb stuff. And there's not much you can do about that other than, have your staff look out for misuse and misbehavior. And so that I think most courses are already kind of doing. But when you look at the landscape, obviously, research the folks, see what sort of content they're putting out there, and then, approach those people and see if there is interest in creating that sort of content. A mixture is really good. I feel like, knowing golf at a high level and have played 96 of the top 100. So I know the vibe of some of the most private clubs and kind of this energy and what to do, what not to do on a golf course, that sort of thing. So you want to look for people that are passionate about the game, showcase it in the best light. And, there's some great, there's a lot of different, opportunities out there. The Fried Egg does a great job, who's on the panel as well.
Yes.
Of showcasing the architecture of some of these places. Good photographs. You're getting thoughtful articles written about everything from the design of the course, the feeling of the course, all these different things. So I've looked up to Andy and his team out there at Fried Egg do great job of kind of being in that space, and they've become incredibly popular because of the passionate work they do. And then kind of another side is when you talk about YouTube as being that's the spot where everybody's at now. And Fat Perez and the Bob Sports crew, and you've got your Barstool Sports, and there's the good guys. I don't watch a lot of it because it's it takes time to watch some YouTube videos, and I'm busy, but it's massive. I mean, I tell you, we were at it was a golf course, and one of the guys was telling me how the good guys came out and filmed some sort of thing, and the kids from the neighborhood were coming out and just watching these guys play because they're the stars. YouTube is big right now, so it would be wise to do you look at those different options there, and the sort of folks that you want at your golf course. They all come with a different crowd, right? The Barstool Sports, you can talk to the folks at Pinehurst about Riggs. It's got a house on like the second or third tee box there. Made a massive difference in the perception of that golf course between these hordes of young golf fans. Some good and bad, right? There's kind of like a drinking party atmosphere that comes along with the Barstool boys, which is good, and that's fine, but you got to be, do you want that sort of crowd at your place? Is that all you want to be, or is it like there's room for both of these folks? So I always tell people it's a balance of different things, right? Kind of find your messaging as a golf course, and then try your best to align with the influencers or the media folks that embody that. And you're going to have some missteps, and I tell clubs it's not always as bad as some bad press as you might think it is. There's the old saying that any press is good press, and that's largely true. I shared this, James. I'm going to share the same story because we were at that conference together. I think
please.
It's a funny one because we were out at I was doing some work for a club called Quivera in Mexico. It's this beautiful seaside through the sand. I mean, there's some dramatic holes along there. And, some of the imagery that I captured from that visit is spectacular, and people were very excited about it. But, as part of what I do as an influencer, and I like to think of myself as a photographer that has some influence as well. And so there was these watermelons growing on the golf course on like the third hole, like in this patch. And I saw one. I knew instantly what I needed to do. I don't remember the whole number, but it's this long winding par 5 that goes down towards the sea, and it's all downhill, and it kind of curves dogleg left, and the green ends up by the sea. And so I picked up that watermelon and carried it for like 8-9 holes. We get to, let's say it's the 13th hole, and I bowled it like a watermelon bowler down the fairway. And I didn't know how far it was going to go. I just thought it might be interesting. I had an idea it was going to go, but this thing just kept bouncing and rolling, and it took the curve of the dog leg. It's like, it's picking up speed, and we're laughing and giggling it because we can't believe it's going. And then it starts turning around the bunker, like heading towards the green. I mean, it made it all the way up by the green before it like bounded off down to the rough. It was a funny video. But it got like, I think 500,000 views on Twitter, a couple 100,000. It was like, the impression it reached a lot of people. And from what I heard, the marketing folks weren't thrilled with that sort of content on their golf course. I mean, they wanted a different.
Yeah.
I think once they saw the numbers and their, the tee sheets and the interest in visiting their golf course had an uptick. And just from that exposure, I don't think they mind so much. And a couple reports of others finding those watermelons and attempting similar things, but it didn't take them long for them to there wasn't a lot of watermelons out there, and they got rid of them, and it wasn't, not a lot of damage done. It's kind of a humorous story of something that I did that was maybe not the most on brand polished marketing approach to things. And I tell folks, if you're going to hire somebody like myself, I would say I'm conservative on the side of things that I'm doing on a golf course. Most of the times, I haven't done, that was years ago. I've definitely been more tame in my approach, just because, I don't want to get yelled at by a customer thinking that not what they wanted.
Sure.
But it's a funny story, and it does speak to how things, simple as it can go, can really go viral, and you can have an influx of interest in your course, based on something, kind of trivial that's happening on the internet. So if you're not putting yourself out there for that sort of growth or exposure, it's just not going to happen for you. Some other course will get it.
When a client kind of says, like, how do I measure ROI, on an influencer? How do I measure ROI on, even on your work, whatever it might be, right? Do you have an answer to that kind of question?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I get it. I mean, you want return on investment as a sales guy. The thing is, it's extremely hard to quantify this. You ask Pepsi or Coke, spends hundreds of millions of dollars on their marketing every year. What their ROI is, they have no freaking clue what their ROI is. They know that they don't want to not spend it because it's turned them into this massive, the biggest beverage company in the world. So there is a little bit of, we would all love to be accountants and be like, all right, Patrick was here, he did this, and we booked this amount. It's like, it doesn't work like that. As much as I would love to have the ability to quantify my visit, sometimes I'll get messages be like, hey, we saw this golf course and we booked a vacation there. I love to send those to clients, because then it's like, hey, you spent $5,000 on my visit here, and these guys came. It's just one thing, and they spent $5,000. There you go. There's your ROI. So sometimes stuff like that happens. It's really obvious, but there is a little bit of leap of faith where you're measuring that. I can send analytics to my clients and be like, hey, I was here and I did these 2 posts, and they got 100,000 views. And my website, 1,000 people came and viewed this. What happens from that is a function of a number of different things, right? How good is your golf course really? What is the product that they saw when they clicked on that?
Right.
Where did you take that ball and go running there? So I always urge clients to have to be ready for your eyeballs on their course, to have a plan to convert those into tee times or to bookings or whatever it is. But there is a little bit of unknown. And based upon what I've seen in 10 years in the business, you'd be foolish to think that a good golf course photograph that goes out there, and I've had some that just make the rounds and and you can talk to the guy at Northwoods. Was there on the panel as well, as he was an owner operator. That golf course has been completely changed by the media folks that have visited there. He's got a fantastic product. Alistair McKenzie golf course in the Redwoods. If you're a golfer,
nine
holes. But if that doesn't get you salivating and want to go check it out, so that he's got an advantage there. But the effect that the media can have over the course of time in these visits, and it snowballs too, because he told a story about I didn't even know, one of my friends, Stephanie, that went and did a little blog on a visit there. She saw that from my visit. She saw my photograph of, I don't know, it was like the third hole back up into the trees. There's these big, tall redwood trees, beautiful green. You're like, oh my gosh, that's like no other. She saw that and I was like, you got to go, Stephanie, check it out. And so she went and she did some work there too, just based upon a photograph that I took during my visit, where I paid the greens fee. I was just there to play it. So you want to welcome the folks to your course, because you really, it's very difficult to track how things bounce from one to another. There is a bit of faith that these things are going to work out, and the ones that I think kind of, if you focus too much on that, get real granular on one visit and don't see something and then give up, that's kind of the worst way to do it. Stick with it. Get a couple folks out there, continue with that plan, get some photographs, and try for a couple years, and so you have to be prepared to kind of make a little investment, have a little bit of faith, and I think you'll see that it makes a large difference in the perception of your golf course over time.
Yeah. We're running out of time. There's so many questions I'd love to ask you, but I want to come back to I think you said 96 out of 100 of the top 100. Unbelievable. I can only imagine. And I've got another question for that in a minute. But before we get to that, not a top 100 course, but just a destination or a course that kind of, you weren't expecting something, or, you maybe you had certain expectations, and then all of a sudden, it kind of surprised you and it stood out in some way capacity. Because, Patty, one of the things I think is so fascinating, the stories you must have about service, or about showing up in a golf shop, or about the way you're treated, or about having a drink in the restaurant afterwards, or about the beverage cart. In addition to playing all those courses, you're experiencing all those courses, right? And as an operator on this, listening to this podcast, we're always trying to figure out, how do we stand out? Was there a destination or a course that kind of surprised you in your travels so far? And it kind of,
I think it's, for me, I take a pride in knowing pretty much everything about the golf landscape in the world, which is difficult to do, because there are some cool spots out there that kind of surprise you. And it's the couple that did it. On the last tour that really kind of blew me away was a place. First off, was a course called Blackjack's Crossing, which was fun because I remember my buddy sent me a picture of it. Yeah, and somebody went and taken a photo of this thing, and he was like, have you played this course? And it looked amazing. I'm like, well, I don't recognize that. I figured I'd been to every place that looked that dramatic in the United States. And I was like, no. And it immediately pissed me off. And then I looked and find out where it was. It's like 7 hours west of San Antonio, and on the Mexican-Texas border, very difficult to get to. And up by I think it's Big Bend National Park, beautiful part of Texas, just wild, kind of like the last sort of unexplored area, it felt like, of America. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I immediately rerouted my route to get down there to play Blackjack's Crossing. And it was glorious. It was, because you kind of get out there. There's a couple wild stories in the book of me getting to there. That's one of my favorite chapters I wrote in the book. There's a gemstone store there that's got a real peach of a story. But I brought my girlfriend and fiance now she came with me, and we get out there. It's middle of nowhere. It's this kind of what is it? I'm blanking on the architect. former tour player, did a great job out there.
Okay.
And it's I mean, you can hit a golf ball into Mexico. There's a hole where you can see the kind of the Rio Grande. It's as
Right.
wild as it gets. There's a hot spring, a natural hot spring that runs in front of one of the greens. I was like, yeah, right. But I hit my ball in there, and it was funny enough, I hit my ball in there. It was hot. It was hot.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a legit hot spring. I'm just thrilled. And there's no homes out there. It's just wild. Blackjack's Crossing was just like, it blew my mind. It thrilled me. And I think that's what golf courses are looking for, is kind of finding a new place, finding an experience that they didn't expect. And there's a lot of places like, there's another one in Devil's Thumb, was like a $60 greens fee in like Western Colorado. Don't be dumb, play the thumb. I gave him that little marketing tagline, because that's another one that, like, it kind of reminds, there's like these big kind of like sand mounds that you see in like New Mexico and obviously Colorado, and the course kind of butts up right up to the edge, and it was just this treat to play and to find and to photograph. I mean, some of the photos I took of Devil's Thumb were some of my favorite of the you got is that, there you go, I think that's Blackjack's Crossing. That's
Lanny Watkins designed it.
Lanny Watkins. Sorry, Lanny. I met Lanny at the Pure Insurance Championship later on that year, and I tell him how much I love that golf course. But I think that's the hole.
That looks amazing.
That's the hole with the spring. The spring is up by the green there, and you kind of see where it kind of cuts through. I didn't take that photograph, I don't think, but I should have. That's a beauty right there. So I mean, that's wow. Like, go play freaking, Blackjack's Crossing. And so that was a real fun one. I can't tell you how many people I told that and how much business I've sent their way. Just from my one visit there. And to the operators that are saying, well, we don't have Blackjack's, well, Blackjack's Crossing is, but I tell you, you've got something at that golf course. I've never really run into a golf course. Some are tough, some courses do blend in, but more often than not, like, the course has got something special, some cool story, something that I love to share and to talk about. And that's kind of what we do as media, as photographers. We find things that we love and we share them with other people, and try to make this, this world of golf a little more cohesive and bring other people into it. I can never get enough of it. And fortunately, there's more courses in this world that I'll ever be able to explore. I'll die with a bucket list of courses that I want to see. What a gift!
If you could play one course right now that you've never played, what's on your bucket list that you haven't played before?
Oh man, I'm itching for some New Zealand and Australia action. Yes. Royal Melbourne up there. I've seen all my buddies and friends go and take photographs and tell stories, and like, I want to go there and experience it as well. I'm a golfer as much as I am an influencer, whatever it is. So that's a big chunk. That's my great big chunk of grand well-known stuff that I've still got to get to.
I'm going to Australia this summer to speak at a conference, and I was there a few years ago at the same conference. Got a chance to play Kingston Heath, which is probably my favorite golf course in the world, and there's some in the sand belt there. There's some spectacular golf. Right. People must go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like, so we have this conversation. We talk about Kingston Heath, Royal Melbourne, these big names. But what I've heard that really excites me is there's a bunch of these other courses around there that I haven't heard the names of. I'm not familiar with them, that like I would love to go play and photograph. And a lot of these places aren't crushing it. They don't have a bunch of really good imagery when they could have this really great stuff. So, I mean, bring me out to your golf courses, the ones that are not the huge names. We all know of Royal Melbourne. It's on television,
of course,
hosting major tournaments and stuff. Obviously, we want to play those places, but the real opportunity lies for the golf courses that have something a little special, that are close to those sort of things, that are not well known, that would be very well served from having, myself or Fried Egg or Fat Perez and the boys out there to show off the greatness of it. Because there is no shortness of these places. There's just so many of them. And that's what I've dedicated my career to exploring and uncovering and showing off for everybody. It's, a dream come true.
Well, Patrick, that's now my new goal, because we have many courses down under that are part of our Golf Industry Guru family, and so that is my my goal is to get a chorus in Australia to watch this podcast and to call you up and to say, we want Patrick to come down under and to film and take photographs of a bunch of imagery. So 100%. How can our listeners best reach out to you, Patrick?
It's my website. It's pjkoenig.com. It's PJKOENIG. It's my Instagram handle. So you can find me on Instagram. All the stuff on my website. Submit a request and I'll get back to you right away. I'm always monitoring it, and I'm having calls with folks every day. So that's the best way to get in touch with me. And boy, James, thanks for having me on. As you can tell, we could talk about this for another hour if you wanted to.
Oh, 100%, man. It was fantastic. As I said, I love your images. I recommend everyone just reach out to you and learn a little bit more about how you can help a facility. But Patrick, thanks so much for joining Golf Industry Guru, our live Q&A call for the month of February. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. And as always, we will see you next time on The Inside.
Thanks, James.